Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, January 14th, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. DeRay. Roll call.
Ms. Christine Bello.
Here.
Ms. Thomasina Bello.
Here.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Victoria Boucher. Mr. Bergarelli. Here. Mr. DeRay. Mr. Howard. Here. Ms. Politti.
Here.
Mr. Stewart. Here.
Tonight we're going to move the agenda around a little bit, and we're going to have the Gear Up group first. So that is next.
Thank you so much. So tonight I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mr. Sharif Washington and our amazing scholars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As well as Mr. Rogers. They will be presenting on Gear Up. Mr. Washington and his amazing staff and students will be providing a presentation about our Gear Up program. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Manning Campbell, members of the board, and the executive cabinet. My name is Sharif Washington. I am the Gear Up program coordinator. That wonderful gentleman over there to my right is Mr. Kevin Rogers. He is our event facilitator for Gear Up. And before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge all the beautiful people of our community who come here week in and week out to voice their opinions and their concerns for our students. I want to thank all of the students from Gear Up. You guys can stand for me who are present. And all of the families, all of the Gear Up families who came out to support us tonight. For me, it is a huge honor to serve this community. It is a huge honor to serve this district. And myself and Mr. Rogers, I know I speak for him as well, we do not take that responsibility lightly. We would like to acknowledge the Gear Up New York State Director, Nona Donovan, the New York State Project Coordinator, Sabina Kelly, and Project Coordinator, Tessa Biscup, for their ongoing support, and seeing to it that Newburgh receives the very best support, and it's always unwavering, so we're grateful for that. So let's get into it here. What is Gear Up? We know that over the last 2.5 years, you guys have seen Gear Up pop up on the board agenda multiple times, and you're probably thinking, what is that? What do they do? So let's get into it. So Gear Up stands for Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. That is a mouthful, so that's why we say Gear Up, right? It makes it a lot easier for everyone. It's a state-mandated, federally funded grant designed with the goal of increasing the graduation rate and preparing our scholars for college and career. Currently, New York Gear Up serves over 6,500 students throughout New York State and has an intentional focus to support communities like ours. Fortunately for us, our school district was chosen to have this particular grant. We were awarded the grant in the 2022-2023 school year when our cohort of Gear Up scholars were preparing to transition into the 8th grade. Gear Up was designed in such a way to allow the state and school districts to monitor the progress of the students who participate in the program's offerings from middle school through their first year of college. So that means that even after the grant is complete, we continue to, even after they've crossed the academy field, Gear Up is still present in their lives. And I always tell my students and their families, I say to them, just because the grant ends doesn't mean my support ends, doesn't mean that this school district's support for you ends. You have me till I no longer draw breath. So a little more about Gear Up. We are in year 3 of 7 right now. And like I said, this grant currently follows our current class of 2028, which is our 9th grade class. So all of our freshmen that you see here, they're here supporting us, and we provide them with free support, not only for them, but for their families as well. And that means there's absolutely no cost to their families, there's no cost to the school district. Everything that we do is completely free for the students, whether that's transportation to and from wherever we're going, the universities, any programs that we have, any workshops that we offer, is completely free to the students and the district. Our goal is to provide our scholars with exposure to experience and opportunities they might not normally have. When you are in a community such as Newburgh, we don't oftentimes get to do things that other school districts have the luxury of doing. Fortunately for us, Gear Up provides us with a vast amounts of things that we can do, and we take full advantage of those things. And our students who are here, their parents and the families who are here, they'll tell you on their own in a little bit. While we're in Gear Up, the questions that we ask our students, we don't ask them the typical, what do you want to be when you grow up? We don't ask them, what you're thinking about. We ask them, what is it that you want to do with your life? What is it that you want to create with your life? How do you see yourself making a difference for your community? Our only expectations for our students is the same thing across the board. It's not just for our 9th graders. It's not just for our sophomores. It's not just for our juniors. It's for every child in our district. The expectation is for them to simply dream big, believe in yourself, try your best to achieve your fullest potential, and don't ever give up on yourself. I always tell my students that your situation and your surroundings don't determine your altitude. It doesn't determine what you're going to be in your life. Your possibilities, your potential, all that stuff is limitless, it's endless. So in the coming year, Gear Up will be offering academic support to our students who aren't currently maximizing their full potential, as well as students simply seeking to improve their academic standing. We will be doing that through our Gear Up After School Academy, which will be beginning at the end of this month. And through it all, myself and Mr. Rogers, we make ourselves accessible to our students and their families. And we have an open line of communication, whether that's via email, phone. We have office hours where families can come and meet us any day of the week, Saturdays included. Like, we are open for our families. And I think we have some families here that can speak to that. Mr. Rogers, my right hand and my left hand man, he is in between campuses throughout the day, early in the morning. He's the first person that they see. We have a presence in our schools. When you see him, you see me. When you see me, you see him. He is my right-hand man. He's my left-hand man. He is everything. We have formed a very good bond, not only between each other, but with our students. We are actively, every single day, we are actively trying to spark their minds to think differently, to think creatively. We are trying to be proactive, have them thinking proactively about their future, right? We are challenging our scholars to set goals for themselves. We are challenging them to think long-term versus short-term with the decision-making, right? So that we don't have the incidents that we had today, right? These are the things that are important to this community. We have to start from within, we work and we meet the students where they are. It's a very simple solution in my estimation. So in order to do all of these things, we have to partner with our building administrators. And we have some wonderful building administrators in the high school level on all 3 campuses. I'm very fortunate to work with them each day. And they provide us with unlimited support. Example of this support goes back to when our students were still in the 8th grade, still in middle school. We had a family Gear Up night in which we had 62 students who were promotion in doubt, right, at South Middle School, 62. out of the 308 at the time. 62 families were invited to participate in Family Gear Up Night. Of those 62, 39 showed up. Of those 39 who showed up, 20 signed up for the Gear Up After School Academy. That was our first Gear Up After School Gear Up Academy. 16 of those students were able to change their status from promotion in doubt to promotion confirmed. So it's a small win, but it's a win nonetheless. And each year our numbers are growing and growing and growing. So that's what we're looking for when we move forward. Gear Up also helps students prepare for college, career, and entrepreneurship. Through college visits, career exploration, we have guest speakers, and we have various workshops that offer these students different insights into things that they would normally partake in. While we are aware that all of our scholars may not view college as a viable option, we encourage our scholars to learn about all of the options that college provides to them, not only for their future, not only academically, but socially as well. I'm a living witness. I met my wife in college. My best friends in the world come from college. So I always tell them that, we talk from our own experiences. Gear Up also provides resources that explain how college can be affordable for families. So one of the big stigmas is that I can't afford college. I can't go to college because I can't afford it. That's not necessarily true. And that's what Gear Up provides. We have a wealth of information that lets students and their families know how they can afford college. We are currently in the process of planning a Gear Up Family Financial Literacy Night, where families and students can come together to learn ways they can afford college and also how they can become more financially responsible. We also share information about entrepreneurship, where we discuss the pathways to owning your own business, what it takes to manage it once it's open and once it's been established, right? We look at trade school options for our scholars who have their heart set on working a trade. We seek out apprenticeships for them, and we provide them with the information and benefits of learning a trade. Fortunately, here in Newburgh, we have a wonderful program that provides our scholars with amazing opportunities in that space already, but anything that our school district does not provide, Gear Up will indeed provide. So, Gear Up student experiences, I can speak to it from my standpoint, but I think it's better that you hear from them about what they actually experienced. So I want to call my students up to the microphone. Don't be nervous now, though. Y'all were talking so much. They were talking so much. If you could have heard them. And I'm going to say, and wait till you hear them. Come on up here. Tell them about it. So I have.
My name is Eli McNair, and yeah. I just want to say my participation in Gear Up has helped provide me more than enough information about college and career opportunities through the experiences in this program. The most impactful activity shaping my path today was our trip to Ithaca College and Cornell University. At Ithaca, I gained valuable insights into the health field, while Cornell's cybersecurity and computer science program left a lasting impression. My most memorable experience was at Ithaca College with Silver, Evan, Alea, and Siraji in the hospital simulation room, working with the lifelike dummy to learn about the respiratory system. It inspired me to aim higher, shifting my goal from just graduating college to becoming an anesthesiologist and attending Cornell University.
Hi, I'm Silver Stewart. I was the one Eli was talking about in his thing. First of all, Gear Up is just amazing. It has helped. Well, I already knew what I wanted to do, but Gear Up helps educate you on how you can get there, different ways you can get there in the first place. Like during the summer, Gear Up had a 2-week summer program where they allowed speakers to come in, past graduates, and things of that sort to help you understand there are multiple ways to get to your goals, such as going through community college. If you can't afford going to a university, do 2 years and maybe be an apprentice, do this and that, and you can still reach your goals no matter what type of setbacks you have or whatever the case may be, because life happens. This summer at Ithaca, like Eli mentioned, It was a very memorable experience because it just really showed to me that while like a college can be called a university, but every university is different. There might be some who are more medical based, and for Eli that was really great for him because their medical science program really showed him that this is something that he's confident about, and this is something that he wants to do. And for me, going to Cornell really helped me understand that colleges are different, and when thinking about what college I want to go to, I should have other things into play like sports programs and just overall the college life there. And that's just some of the stuff that the Gear Up program has helped me think about and just shape my future.
Good evening, my name is Claire Greben-Smith, and Gear Up isn't just a program to me. Gear Up is more of a family. I haven't been in Gear Up since I was in 7th grade. I just started a few years ago, or more like a year ago. And I already knew what I wanted to do. I already knew exactly what I needed to be successful. However, Gear Up really helped me. If some of you guys don't know, I am the author of Claire's Corner on the Gear Up Spotlight newsletter. And because of Mr. Washington, I made my dream come true. And I'm writing and I'm doing the thing that I love. And I don't just get to do the thing that I love and make my dream come true. I get to share my writing with other people around me. I was a very shy kid. I hated public speaking, but here I am in front of all of you. But Gear Up helped me create friends, helped me be confident in myself and what I wanted to do. And it's just genuinely a great experience for me and all my friends. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sutton Garcia Otero, and I am a freshman along with everyone else here. Gear Up has helped me form so many connections and given me so much inspiration in what I want to do. Before I started this, I was really unsure of where I wanted to go in life, and this has really helped me see all the paths forward that I can take. And aside from all of the connections and inspiration and just opportunities it has given me, Mr. Rogers and Mr. Washington have been great role models and just amazing to all of us. And I feel like I can speak for all of the students here when I say that we all love them very much and think of them as just another part of our family. Thank you.
All right. Well, now that I'm crying, I was a hey. First of all, thank you, all of you, for being here and for saying the wonderful things that you said. And this is what this is all about, right? This is what Gear Up is all about, and it's forming an opportunity for students to feel safe, to feel heard, and to feel like they matter. The fact that they can come up here and speak to you so eloquently speaks volumes, and I don't have anything to do with that. I can say that their parents are here, and that's another thing. You know, having the support of your parents. I'm going off the rails. I'm sorry. I enjoy getting to do this every single day, and it is truly an honor and a privilege to work with such amazing students. And I'm sorry for kind of going off the rails here a little bit, but I'm going to brag on us a little bit. Early this year, we received. Wow, I'm sorry. On Thursday, September 26th, the representative from Congressman Pat Ryan's office presented Newburgh Gear Up with a congressional proclamation from the House of Representatives for the acknowledgement of our dedication to our scholars. And for me personally, I don't do this is not for me. right? So everything that we do is for these students and for these children. And I always tell them, I don't care about what the adults are saying. I don't care what the people in the community are saying that I have anything negative to say to you. You guys are truly the future. Everything that you are doing is valuable. Who you are is important. And I'm going to be there every step of the way with you. So when we got this recognition, I thought it was cool, but it didn't mean anything to me because we have a lot of work to do in this community, right? And I stand here before you as just someone who is humbled by what I heard. I don't think I'm going to get through I'm going to wrap it up because, yeah. I don't have much left in me right now, but I thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. We have some wonderful events coming up for our students. So these are some tentatively planned events, some scheduled events, some rescheduled events that we have, just so you guys can look at, see what we have coming up. We do send out a newsletter each month for our students that Claire mentioned, called the Gear Up Spotlight, where we highlight our student achievements and what they're doing and what they have coming up. And we highlight the trips that we've gone on, and we also let them know what's coming in the coming months. Lastly, if there's any other questions or if you want any other information about our program and what we're doing, again, it's Newberg Gear Up at necsd.net. We are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So please, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us there. And again, I thank you. I'm humbled by this moment. And Cassie, Dr. Sklar, okay, we're gonna go. All right, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Washington. And Mr. Rogers, could you please stand so we can know who his right and left hand is? Thank you. Scholars, you were fantastic. Thank you very much. Parents, families, thank you for entrusting us with them. They are magnificent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I asked Mr. Washington to clarify this, and he got so emotional he forgot. This isn't a program that any freshman, if they're not currently in, can still join, right? This is an ongoing endeavor.
That is correct. So this program is for all ninth grade students in the district. Whoever's registered at NFA West, Maine, or North can participate. But again, myself and Mr. Rogers, we don't limit ourselves just to the ninth grade cohort. We are a listening ear for our 10th graders. We are available for our 11th graders and our 12th graders as well. We have all walks of life. They walk into our office and they come to speak with us and tell us what's going on in their minds every day. But we're grateful for it. Should I just stand here? Are there any more questions? I'm sorry, I should have forgot about that part.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam President. You tried to get away. I like that.
I forgot. Listen,
Yeah, okay.
Listen. I got emotional.
All right. So first and foremost, I want to say this is an incredible program. I love seeing this type of program in our district. I love the benefits to our scholars. So I have a question for you. I don't know if you can answer it, but if you can't, perhaps you can flip it to the superintendent. Program of this magnitude, incredible. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that
Mr. Howard has his theme music apparently?
Okay, yeah,
he's
that was my theme
gonna
music to this question. There you go. So is there any way that we can turnkey this type of program so that this type of program can be available to each cohort, or will it be? Because I know it follows you through, but when younger kids see what's going on, see what's happening, and even older kids see what's happening, it's like it's an incredible opportunity. And the things that are being done with this program are things that are, as you stated earlier, it's something that's needed in this school district.
Absolutely.
And as a board member, I would love to know, can we possibly turnkey this, or are we sure that this is going to be available once this program goes out?
So I'm not the person to answer that question. However, I have spoken with our state director about figuring out a way for us to implement it for every cohort, because like you said, it is very necessary. I know that they have discussed having it for 12th graders specifically, but as far as it going for every cohort, I don't have that information. I can find out. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think everybody in this district should have a Gear Up program or something similar to it, but I cannot answer that.
And a quick follow-up. So I've seen the work that both you and Mr. Rogers do in the buildings. Incredible.
Thank
I
you.
see how the kids light up when they see you. I see how it's like you two guys are like magnets in those buildings.
Thank you.
What would you say has been your biggest success with this program? And then a follow-up will be, what has been your biggest obstacle?
Biggest success has been seeing students who did not have college on their radar. I'll give you an example. I had a young man who we asked prior to taking a trip to Albany. We went to the state of Albany University, and I mean, sorry, not state. I said state of Albany. I'm sorry, SUNY Albany, and before we went on the trip, I asked him what college he might be thinking of attending. And he said, "Man, I ain't going to college," right? And I said, "Well, you're going to college today," but one of the things that I heard as he was talking to his friends towards the end of that tour that we went on was, "Yo, when I go to college, yo, watch it." And I was like, "Boom, got him." And for me, that's so important, right? That aha moment. He didn't say it to me, but I heard him talking amongst his friends about when he's going to attend college. And for me, that meant everything. So that for me was a big, one of the biggest moments. That was a big success. And I pray that he does follow through on that. Biggest obstacles are not being able to provide the resources for every single student. That's my biggest obstacle, because I showed you we have 6,500 students, over 6,500 in the state of New York. 1,000 of those belong to Newburgh. So when I get the opportunity to take students on a trip to a school or a university or to the United Nations, which we went to on Friday, I can only bring but so many kids. So that part has been the biggest obstacle, not being able to provide it for the 1,000 students. That's my goal. I want to be able to take everybody, but unfortunately that's not an option. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Bucarelli?
Thank you. Amazing job. Had to be reminded a couple times when the students spoke there were only ninth graders. It's amazing.
Every day.
Congratulations to the parents and you, Mr. Washington, you, Mr.
Rogers,
and that should be easy for me to remember. Just a quick question. Is that the best way to get more information on the program, or should students talk to their guidance counselors, parents email the guidance counselors? Like, what's the best way for parents, hopefully, who are watching this, take some good out of these meetings?
So, like I said, I'm available 24/7. People told me not to say that. My wife tells me not to say that. But the reality is, we do leave ourselves available. Yes, Newburgh Gear Up at NECSD is our email address, but they can contact me directly as well. I have no problem with that. And my email, everything is on the website as well.
Rooms in campuses, what rooms and locations in campuses if you're a student?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Where are your offices located?
Oh,
NFA
so
North,
we have,
NFA Main?
sorry, so we have an office at NFA Main. We're in the, what's the 230B, which is the, what's the suite called? Counselor Suite, that's what it's called, the Counselor Suite in 230B. Our office in NFA North is currently under renovations, so we don't have an office there. So we kind of hang out in Mr. Dotto's office. I saw him earlier, but I don't know where but we make ourselves available on all campuses. Miss Lakia Stooks, her office is our other office. So, and Miss Ebony Clark as well. They opened up their office to us as well. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna go over ahead and cry now. So thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, thank you very much. Moving a little bit, again, out of order. We thought it was important to give an update. So, good evening. I would like to provide a brief update on an incident that occurred near our high school campus this afternoon. As we shared previously, a lockout protocol was initiated at Newburgh Free Academy main campus on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, at dismissal for approximately 10 minutes due to reports of shots being fired near the school. At this time, there are no report of injuries. A lockout is initiated due to activity outside of the school building and limits access to the campus. In today's case, the lockout was initiated to support local law enforcement in containing the crime scene. Although this is a very troubling incident at this time, we do not feel as though there is a threat to our school community. However, we have requested an additional presence of law enforcement tomorrow to help our students feel more comfortable. Our critical incident stress management team has been activated and is available to support our school as needed. Students who feel the need to process their emotions should visit the Guidance and Career Center at NFA main campus. We are extremely thankful for our dedicated security and administrative staff, as well as our sheriff's deputy, who were immediately present at the scene to assist in de-escalating the situation. We are also thankful for the students, faculty, staff, and administrators who responded to the lockout protocol and acted quickly and efficiently as we have practiced throughout the year. We are also thankful for the quick response of local law enforcement and will continue to collaborate with them to assist in their investigation. Anyone with information is encouraged to call the City of Newburgh Detective Division at 845-569-7509. All callers can remain anonymous. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move to public comment on agenda items.
First person signed up to speak on agenda items is Mr. Dennis Grant. Moving on, the next person signed up is Miss Erica Perez. And we'll move on to Mr. Mark Levenstein.
My name is Mark Levenstein, and I live in the town of Newburgh. I am here to comment on agenda item 11.1, resolution to approve a new club. I realize that many may feel this is a mundane subject, so why spend time when we can discuss a sensational issue? Because discussions here should be about students and the exceptional opportunities that this district can provide. Instead, we hear grievances, some deserved, some not, that has become a large part of this Board of Education. The club that is proposed is based in Fostertown Elementary and is the Events, Light, and Sound Club. Sometimes students need something other than course classes to have them become better scholars and individuals. Reading the purpose of the club can show the students the performing arts field. So my youngest went to Fostertown a long time ago and worked the soundboard for the plays. It was an education, and it was the step into the performing arts arena. Music and plays in elementary school, instrument, chorus, and plays in South Middle School, everything performance art in NFA. He went to and graduated from music college and has had exceptional career opportunities. My wife and I would like to thank all of Matthew's teachers, his music educators, his performance arts teachers, and the district for the tremendous opportunity and outcome he has had. These educators are the best. My point, you may think that it is no big deal to create a club in an elementary school. It may take a while, but you might be pleasantly surprised. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak on agenda items is Ms. Tracy Wallace.
Hi, Tracy Wallace. I live in the city of Newburgh. The on-agenda item I wanted to speak about, I think it's 6.1 or 6.2, I can't think of the exact number. In the attorney investigating someone from the board. I don't know what this resolution, is to investigate someone from the board and in violation of 2160. But I do know that last week, 5 people abstained from voting, and that you sworn in to do a duty. You came in here to vote, and 5 of you abstained. And, I really would just like the board to focus on the students and not focus on, trying to just combat each other. I mean, it just takes so much time. And when we come here, don't do their due diligence and read or look up things or ask questions to each other via online. And we sit here and we hear fighting amongst everyone, and this just doesn't resolve anything. In my next non-agenda items, I have questions about the curriculum, and I have questions about education, and I have legitimate questions that we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about, fighting and publicly outing someone when maybe you can talk to Mr. Shaw during executive on a conflict that you have with someone from the board. So I would just appreciate the, not fighting. I would appreciate the on-agenda items be more focused on the policies. I would love, again, to have a Citizens Advisory Committee. I have asked this several times. This is part of the committees that would be really helpful if you had the community to be able to sit in an organized fashion, to be able to go through the policies and talk and give you ideas instead of coming up here and fighting with you and arguing with you. I think it would be reasonable to, get a committee together, and it'd be reasonable to have resolutions and have things that we can actually use on the agenda. Thank you.
If there's nobody else signed up to speak on agenda items, we'll move on to non-agenda items. I don't know, Ms. Dawn Fuchek.
Good evening, Dawn Fuchek. I reside in the town of Newburgh. This evening, I wanted to speak to you about policy number 1230, public comment at board meetings. The third paragraph of your policy states, commenters speaking during the first comment period are restricted to the third paragraph states, a submitted written request will ensure that the person has the opportunity to address the board. Others will be permitted to address the board if time permits, as recognized by the board president and after identifying themselves. Past practice of this board has been that once all speakers that have signed up to speak have spoken, if there was additional time left during that particular public comment period, the question was always asked, would anyone else like to speak? Since the new president was elected at the reorg meeting, that has not been happening, and I'm wondering why that is. Oftentimes, people sitting in the audience hear something during public comment which prompts them to want to speak, and if you don't ask that question, then they no longer have that opportunity. If you truly want to encourage community participation, I would ask that you return to this past practice if time permits, and ask if anyone else would like to speak during your public comment periods. The first paragraph of policy number 1230 states, commenters speaking during the first comment period are restricted to agenda items. Commenters speaking during second comment period may speak on matters public interest involving school operations and programs. The reason I bring this up is because the paragraph doesn't say anything about restricting people from speaking on agenda items during the second comment period. And this happened recently when a community member was told that they couldn't speak because it was the second comment period and they weren't permitted to speak on agenda items during public comment on non-agenda items. If it's not in violation of your policy, then why can't people speak on agenda items during the second public comment period? Lastly, regarding this policy, I've mentioned to you before, while I understand the move of the public comment section to the agenda, to the beginning of the agenda, to be respectful of people's time, I ask you once again to consider amending your policy to allow for an additional public comment period at the end of the agenda. The purpose being the public listens to the board's dialogue on the agenda items as well as the board's vote on the agenda items. After hearing these discussions, the public may have additional comments based on what they have heard this board discuss. I understand that you're concerned with the length of time of your meetings, but in all honesty, you know there are very few of us that remain here until the end of your meeting. I don't think that adding an additional public comment period will significantly impact the length of your meetings. On this evening's agenda, there are several executive session items on the agenda, one in the middle and one toward at the end of the agenda. So why can't this be done for the public comment period? I ask that this board takes this under its consideration. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak on non-agenda items is Miss Stacy Connolly.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stacy Connolly. I'm a resident of New Windsor. My son is a senior at NFA and a player on the football team. He has played football the last couple years and even wrote about his experience for his college essay, expressing the positive outlet it has been, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, and especially the ability to grow and mature with the mentorship of his coaches. I have had the pleasure of being a booster mom, working with other volunteers to feed those boys for their summer camp workout sessions before and after games for the last 3 years. This year was to be the year to celebrate my son and the 14 other senior boys who have put their all into this sport year after year. Sadly, it abruptly ended, and although the email from the superintendent dated November 5th, it stated, "It is important to clarify that it has never been my intention to penalize our dedicated scholars, particularly those who consistently uphold our Goldback standards and represent our community positively." But that's the reality. The reality is that those students and players are suffering. They are the seniors who have been denied those opportunities, potential scholarships, memories of senior night, pep rally, Powder Puff, and the exceptional Senior Bowl that was held on December 7th. In that same email from November 5th, it was stated, "We have identified some of those involved and have a clearer understanding of the timeline of events, allowing us to proceed more expeditiously from here. The internal investigation occurred. The parties involved were suspended and have since returned to school, yet we're still in limbo without communication or transparency. The boosters would like to plan a banquet recognizing the efforts of the players and the coaches. It's now January, 2.5, 3 months after the incident occurred. Internal investigation has occurred. I say internal investigation because it was stated in the board meeting on November 26th that the matter wasn't criminal, and I quote, "We can't hide criminal acts. If there was a criminal act, the law enforcement would be involved. You would know. That just doesn't happen. The most recent incident that Ms. Bello was referring to is not a criminal act. We had some infractions of our code of conduct. If it was criminal, you would know." Your investigation occurred, students were held accountable, the rumors of the weapons that were used, the brooms and the chairs, they still remain in the hallway outside of the locker room. The next set of players should be beginning winter workouts now, preparing for the next season, but they aren't because the fate of the coaches is still unknown. One of the football coaches was denied to coach another sport in which he has been the head coach for 12 years and 16 years as the assistant coach before that. Oh, and let it be said, he's being inducted into the State Coaches Hall of Fame for that sport. Let it also make mention in 2021, the football head coach being the winningest NFA varsity coach in the history of the school, having had been named that year for Section 9 and 5 separate seasons, he was the coach of the year. It's unfortunate and a disservice to those athletic programs and players to not have these role models in these coaching positions. The parents of juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and in these extracurricular programs should be all concerned because this could be their future and their fate. People banking on scholarships, exposures, and recruiting through athletics could be ripped of their opportunity because the district has mishandled the incident and negatively impacted the trajectory of their high school careers. Another milestone for our senior athletes is to anticipate the block end dinner, celebrating and recognizing all graduating athletes. Goalbacks and sportsmanship awards are to be given out for each team, as well as special awards and scholarships. I'm asking now if the football seniors are going to be excluded from this event as well. Our families have contributed to our children's athletic programs monetarily every year to provide equipment, meals, snacks, banners, apparels, and the yearly banquet. Please let us know if we can properly recognize our athletes and our scholars.
The next person signed up to speak is Miss Tracy Wallace.
I'm here to speak about two things. My concern. I have 4 kids. I want to speak about my youngest. My youngest son does not have an IEP, but my concern is that he's been on Tier 2 his entire education. Tier 2 is extra support. So a few things I want to note. In the beginning of the school year, they are given a test. And in November, when I get this test, I'm told that he is a few grades behind, a few levels, reading levels behind. So then they put him on extra support. And this happens every year, the same test, he's 2 levels behind, 3 levels behind every year. As I get progress notes throughout the year, I've been told by the teachers he's doing great, he's doing excellent, everything's great. And then the end of the year, they say, oh, look, he's up to par. He's so wonderful and great. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. He did amazing in this class. Following year, November comes, he's two years behind on his grading level. They're telling me it's the summer. And then again, back on support, and this schedule, and it keeps happening, keeps occurring. We tried to get him OT services. He was not eligible due to that the scores for exceptional learners. They have testings. I did have a question about the testings. I was told that the students are compared to the students in Newburgh, and that there are qualifications for eligibility as far as their scoring on the tests. And so anyway, he scores a certain average where he doesn't qualify for OT services. The second thing I want to talk about was iReady and the amount of time iReady is being used in the classroom. So my son has fine motor skill problems, and he's not the only one. I'm going to speak about him because he's the one that I have his work. So his fine motor skills, his writing skills are poor. He can't write in a straight line, and year after year, they just keep telling me he's going to get better. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But then he comes home with all of these iReady information. And I don't understand the effectiveness of iReady. I don't understand the amount of hours being taught iReady. how much hours is K through 5 getting in iReady? And the effectiveness of iReady versus, I know that we grew up on phonics, and I feel like phonics was really good for us in our classroom, and we didn't use as much computer skills. I mean, we just had a computer class for, I think, 45 minutes once a week back, I'm going to say 80s and 90s. I feel maybe iReady was good maybe during COVID when we did not have teacher in person, but now we have in person. We're back to school. Is there any way that we can lessen iReady? Because the effectiveness in iReady I see is poor because the kids can just pick any answer. They're rushing through. I have read. I've tried to research the effectiveness. I've researched on many different platforms. Teachers are commenting how poor it is. Parents are saying how poor it is. And so I just don't want my son to keep having the same education over and over, because in junior high, I have a son in junior high, and he's telling me how difficult it is he's having in keeping up with doing the research, writing the papers, and junior high, they're getting ready for high school. And there's a big transition between majority iReady in K through 5, and then going to junior high, and you're getting ready for high school, and it's a complete different transition. And it's very difficult. My older son is, he reads more, so he was able to transition, but I do worry about my younger son, Liam, who may not, who I feel is gonna fail if he goes to junior high, if he's continuing to only flourish in iReady, and I don't understand the testing. Do you go by the iReady test and he's on par when you give me that information? You know, when you're updating me and tell me he's doing great, do you have a different set of testing in the beginning of the year that you're giving the parents in November when we do the parent-teacher conference? So my conflict is wondering about how he's keeping par on some testing and what you're giving to the parents, and I'm just trying to understand that. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Ronaldo Santiago.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the board. I want to touch on a couple of points really quickly. I did want to echo what a previous resident said, and by the way, Ronaldo Santiago, town of New Windsor. We have a bunch of student athletes who are effectively in limbo, referring to the football team, who deserve to be recognized. Now, I understand that the management team has conducted this investigation. The parties that needed to be penalized were, but we still have students left over that deserve to be recognized. And I myself second the idea of a banquet. I think that would be a great way to recognize these young student athletes. That being said, what I mainly had on my mind, obviously, is the incident earlier today, and I want to thank the management team for their swift action in the school lockdown. I guess my question, because I don't know if other residents have seen it, I have seen the video that was taken during that, and it was literally about 50 feet from where I dropped off my son this morning. I understand at this time that we feel it is not a threat to school, but we cannot deny that it was literally right outside our doorstep. And I know previously I've come to speak at this board about the incident that was happening at the Lutheran Church right across the street from NFA Maine, about students congregating, about trouble they were getting into there. And I still don't know if that has been addressed with Pastor Mosel. I haven't had a chance to speak with him since the holidays. Now, that was across the street. If you watch the video, you can tell that this incident happened in the middle of the street. Do we have to wait until the incident is on our side of the street or up on the sidewalk? I was looking through our policies and I'm wondering, and forgive my ignorance, I don't know what policy governs the congregating of students after dismissal around school grounds, because this was literally within spitting distance. You can see
NFA man in the background. And like I said, I knew it well because that's exactly where I dropped my son off. Now, I remember at the beginning of this year, there was a little bit of consternation because I know we hired Mr. Gerasi as our new head of security, and I remember people were up in arms about cost and whatnot. But he was a police chief, and he has much experience under his belt. And I guess my question is he going to come to speak at the next board meeting to say if he needs anything? Does he have all the tools and all the resources that he needs? Do we as a policy-making body have the correct policies in place to ensure that once the school day is over, we can get students on their way where they need to be instead of congregating and possibly getting into trouble like this? You know, thankfully, to our knowledge, at this time, I believe no one was injured, thank God. But we don't want to wait until that is not true. We need to do something in order to address this problem that seems to be persistent. Thank you.
Ms. Peterson.
I think it's important to respond to this because I think safety has been Dr. Manning Campbell's, and we also know that the community's main initiative. Mr. Gerasi, since our last incident with the church, the concerns that the church did bring to the community on several board meetings, started that work with Dr. Freeman Mack in terms of really looking and observing dismissal, and also eliciting support from some of our community leaders in terms of what happens. NFA is beautiful, but it's a campus. And at 2:30 every day, 2,500 students descend upon our community, and sometimes altercations happen. So we are looking into ways. Mr. Gerasi has given us different things that are going to be a part of budget consideration in terms of how we can make that dismissal a little bit to support the building. I'm thankful that the building, the administration, the partnerships that we have built in the community allow for a quick response, but I do agree it would be better not to have an incident and be better for students to leave from the community. We've also, Dr. Manning also talked with Mrs. Valentino in terms of ways in which the community, at the end of the day, sometimes our students don't have 9 periods, how we can look at the school day to better improve those things. So it's something that we're very aware of. We're taking it very seriously. Some of that work has already started when we started to hear some of the concerns brought up by the church community that there was a problem. So we have been monitoring. There have been suggestions, and we hope to move forward during that, some sooner rather than later, and then also some additional things as a part of our budget development process.
Mr. Bugarelli.
Hi, sorry, I just had a couple questions, comments about that. No, my kids are on that street every single day too. I have 2 kids in the high school. They are up and down South Street all the time. What is our authority to even have our security off of campus grounds? Because while I agree something has to be done, this sounds like coordination has to happen between the police. Yes, staggered dismissals, encouraging more parents to have their kids take buses, you know, things like that, but we don't have a ton of authority to be off school grounds policing our students, do we?
No, we don't. Thank you for bringing that up because we do understand that it's dangerous. We agree. But our staff members, you know, to the best of their ability, they attempt to intervene. And so that's exactly what happened today. They went above and beyond and remedied immediately. Security, the deputy, our administrators, our staff members, they got involved immediately. You know, yes, thank goodness no one was hurt. You know, it's not something that we want, we don't support, and we're not happy about it, and we need to remedy immediately. What we know is that there are some incidents that are spilling over into our schools. We know that. We've been monitoring. And so we're looking at ways to mitigate. We've met with community leaders. We know that Mr. Gerasi has also elicited some community leaders. They help us at dismissal. We've met with some additional community leaders from the state. Mr. Gerasi also, coordinated those efforts. So we are looking at ways to do that, but it is an ongoing conversation, and we're looking at ways to remedy to make sure that everyone is safe. It's not something that we support.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Madam Superintendent, so that was scary today, and since we're talking about it, is there any opportunity to collaborate with the City of Newburgh? Because it has been said to me in the past, we're in the City of Newburgh, and we understand that heavy traffic after school, the kids that are walking home. Is there any way that we can collaborate with the City of Newburgh Police Department to patrol from Fullerton to Broadway, from Fullerton and South Street all the way down to Du Bois Street, just doing circulars at dismissal times? Would that be an added cost? Or since we're located in the City of Newburgh, how can we talk to them about that so that we can avoid something like this from happening again?
So we can tell you that the City of Newburgh, they're at the table. They've been at the table. We met last week on a different matter. We've been very collaborative. We talked a bit today, as well as with the DA. We are all working together to ensure that we are keeping our scholars, keeping our community safe. And up until a couple of hours ago, we were still communicating. So that is something that we're looking into. I am going to release another statement later on this evening in terms of what our dismissal and what some of our protocols would be moving forward to ensure that we are safe. Thank you.
Ms. Peterson.
I just also think in that collaboration, there are also limitations that they have. And we are trying to look for what we can do as a district that may be able to aid. So if the patrols can't, or if there's something that we can do to aid in what our students' expectations should be in the community, right? Because it's about how are we teaching our students to behave in the community, if there's things that are spilling out, what support we can give also to our staff. Our staff and our security are also going out to give better protocols and also better support so this doesn't happen again.
Mr. Stewart.
Maybe we should look into like high-resolution cameras mounted near exits at the corners of the streets. So it could be a deterrent, first of all, and if something does happen, it's captured, at least we can bring those that perpetrated the incident to justice.
We have them. We have a lot.
So
we do. So we're working with PD, and we're happy. All three municipalities were there instantly, and they helped. They had access. They saw, and so we are very collaborative, and we have a lot of those. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Dennis Grant.
Happy belated New Year. But the same school board drear. Let's go. Madam President, and the still new board members that abstained from voting for the individual to be hired last meeting was a collective cowardice act. It still shows, even though some of you project to have individual thought, this was a hypocritical, unilateral performance or lack of performance of coming onto this board with all the piss and vinegar about the need for teacher aides and other issues, and when there is an individual who is qualified and ready to be approved by this board, you abstain. You came on the school board like brave elephants, but that piss ant move hindered the need for our scholars to receive a passionate TA who is locally grown like many of you. You projected an inability to govern a need because of personal hesitation. Because of her passionate outbursts. I remember not too long ago, people on this board had passionate outbursts on social media about members on the board and others. Oh, how soon we forget. But I know it's different because you were voted, not hired by the board and school district. The people voted you in. So never dislike that Trump is in office if you do, because he too was voted in. The city of Newburgh is gritty. This is not a kumbaya city. Our district, for that matter. A community is not of people who are all liked. It is with people with different thoughts, preferences, hues, identities that figure most of it out to uplift our neighborhoods, to be better, to be successful in many ways. Last meeting was another moment where the abstention 5, that's right, the abstention 5 on this school board flopped and delayed our school district to be better, so our scholars can receive aid to learn better, so our district can have those good stats we so desperately clamor for. Our district kids need TAs, and the 5 who abstained punched this district in the gut by sitting down and not standing up and putting petty differences aside for the betterment of us. It appears petty differences have been placed aside so that the members on this school board can work together. Many on this board want communication to flourish, similar to flowers in a flower shop. But unlike a flower shop, we can't always prune what may not be appealing. Our city is gritty, not a kumbaya city or school district, not a place for thin skins, but a place for loving yet armored hearts. Let's be inclusive in our battles in here and outside, and be mature enough to departmentalize our personal issues. Thank you.
There's nobody else signed up to speak on non-agenda items. If anybody would like to speak, please come forward.
Okay,
Oh, no, this for agenda. I missed that.
so I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you. Okay. Tonight, we have a series, Leading for Literacy. Dr. Soto will be continuing our Leading for Literacy series. Thank you.
Good evening, members of our Board of Education, Superintendent Manning Campbell, Deputy Peterson, our colleagues, and friends and family here in the audience tonight. So, we are continuing with our Leading for Literacy series, part 4. Tonight, we are so excited to share literacy brief number 6, the secondary years. I've been suffering a little FOMO by not being part of Dr. O'Grady's and Freeman Mack's presentation. So, first I'd like to recap, really drive home that the science of reading is an evidence-based approach to teaching literacy. It encompasses 50 years of research. Again, it is not a program. So as you've heard, the science of reading applies to grades pre-K through 12, and it focuses on the foundational practices of how the brain learns to read. Next slide, please. I don't have buttons, thank you. So, in secondary education, the science of reading shifts to content-specific literacy. So our students are taught to navigate and comprehend complex texts in humanities, STEM, fine and performing arts, languages other than English, physical education, and health sciences, and vocational studies. While the fundamental principles stay the same, our students are learning to read. Yes, they're still learning to read in the secondary level. Our students are also reading to learn because the context is so specific. This evening, you are going to hear what high-impact practices look like and feel like in the secondary level. You're going to learn what skills are being fostered, what processes and structures are needed in the secondary level. Next slide, please. So, you'll also hear how writing is a crucial component to developing literacy skills, right? Reading and writing are interdependent. The more a student reads, the stronger their writing becomes. Noted at the diagram listed on this slide. The second diagram explains that when it comes to writing, each discipline or content area has its own style, its own format, its own feel. So not only is reading and writing connections crucial to literacy, they're also crucial because we're teaching our students to write for different audiences, different convections. An example, if you will. Writing looks very different in a math class than it does in a fine and performing arts class. Writing looks different in a social studies class when students read primary resource documents and are asked to explain that. It looks different in a science class when they're writing their lab practicals. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide is really exciting for me as a secondary level person. As a high school person, I was always thinking, and now in my role, I'm thinking, how are we going to get our students to cross academy fields? So, when reading recent New York State education memos about the portrait of a graduate, or our Blue Commission memos about graduation pathways, I observed a correlation, science or reading. So the portrait of a graduate and the science reading are both preparing our students with foundational, research-backed skills that foster lifelong learning. I observed 4 things, and I'm sure there's more, but these are the things that really jumped out at me. First, both frameworks value critical thinking. They directly support the goal of students analyzing and interpreting information across different contexts. Second, strong literacy skills are foundational to effective communication, both written and oral. By promoting literacy through systematic instruction, the science of reading aligns with the portrait of a graduate because it emphasizes clear and purposeful communication. Third, the science of reading fosters adaptability by equipping students with strategies for decoding and understanding complex texts. The portrait of a graduate focuses on developing students who can navigate this complex and ever-changing world. The last observation is that science of reading includes building vocabulary and background knowledge, essential for our students to understand diverse and complex texts. The portrait of a graduate's goal is to develop our students' cultural awareness. So in essence, the portrait of a graduate and the science of reading contribute to a holistic educational approach. So at this time, I'm really excited to pass the mic over to our directors, who are going to share valuable insights on how the science of reading shapes effective instruction in the secondary years. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Maria Pushkanter, our middle level director.
Next slide, please. Good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share the great work that occurs at the middle level in grades 6 through 8. At the middle levels, when students move from elementary into middle school, students move from learning how to read and write to learning to read to learn and write to learn. By middle school, there's a stronger focus on reading and writing to learn, meaning while students are reading to learn in content areas and writing to learn, they are also continuing to build those reading skills. They learn to read as a scientist, read and write as a historian, as a mathematician. They are learning vocabulary, context, and key skills needed to read, write, comprehend, and discuss texts, concepts, and information within each of their major core content areas. Through discourse, students build their speaking skills to support their reading, writing, and content knowledge across all content areas. As you will see later in today's presentation, they also learn to read and write as musicians, artists, technicians, athletes, and more. Reading and writing is a lifelong process. Next slide, please. Additionally, students engage in low-stakes writing that helps build up towards those larger writing tasks. What that means is students work on the thinking and writing skills about their content knowledge. It allows students to gather and demonstrate their knowledge of content in low-stakes manner while building their comprehension based on reading, writing, and discourse. For example, they may read and learn about a plant cell and create a profile of that plant cell, allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge while also learning to write using scientific terms and content. There are also, as you can tell, other examples on the slide. Tasks may start as low stakes and then develop into larger tasks such as essays and research. Students may start in ELA with a visual prompt, which visual best represents your views on the literacy briefs, and then move from there into a greater task, allowing students to discuss their thoughts, gather and discuss their thoughts, and then move into taking that information and writing a longer research paper, an essay, or an extended response. This also supports speaking as well as addressing different learning styles. Overall, it demonstrates that as educators, we are lifelong learners and we want to empower our students to be lifelong learners and lifelong readers. Next, I would like to introduce our Director of Humanities, Ms. Caroline San Louis. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Next slide. Research has shown that there are 6 key competencies that contribute to successful reading. Within the secondary humanities classrooms, to develop successful readers, students are building up on the key components by participating in a variety of vocabulary building strategies, such as word square and concept definition mapping, to help them build content-specific vocabulary. If you actually click on the box, you'll be able to see specific vocabulary strategies that the students are working on. Students are also using level text in English and social studies generated by AI to help with reading comprehension. Examples of these resources include Newsela and National Geographic. In English classes, students are reading high-interest, culturally diverse texts and engage in reading comprehension activities, such as identifying the central idea, conducting a character analysis, or having other text-based discussions. Next slide. To be lifelong literacy learners, our scholars are completing different activities in writing as a tool for learning. Students are completing writing activities called quick writes, a timed writing activity. An example in the social studies classroom would be list as many details about the House of Representatives. In an English classroom, which is an example on the picture, have you ever had to adapt to a new culture or environment? What challenges did this present? Next slide. Other writing strategies that students are doing include note-taking strategies such as the Cornell note-taking strategy. This is a visual way that students can organize their notes and quiz themselves on it later. This improves organization, memory, and understanding. Or they can use the mapping strategy, another note-taking tool that allows students to organize their notes by creating diagrams to connect the main topic or to key concepts and ideas. This also improves comprehension, and it's good for visual learners. It's easy to review and promotes critical thinking. Across content areas, students are practicing the research-based Hodgman method. This strategy helps students build basic sentence structures using the conjunctions, but, because, and so, to develop more complex sentences. Next slide. Middle school and high school directors, myself and Ms. Pushkanter, will be also collaborating on having students obtain a seal of civic readiness. This encompasses students completing an inquiry-based project focusing on a community matter that the students take an interest in. The project is open-ended and includes elements of the Big Six literacy skills that I had discussed previously. I would like now to introduce my colleague, Dr. Chastity Martinez Morales, the Director of E&L and World Languages. Thank you.
Good evening. Oh, it is me. Every literacy brief, in particular brief number 6 about the secondary years, refer to literacy as the ability to communicate in diverse ways and with diverse audiences, which highlights the advanced literacy skills. Advanced literacies are those skills and competencies that enable communication in increasingly diverse ways and promote the use and understanding of text for various purposes. So how do we foster advanced literacies in today's classrooms? Those 6 big skills and competencies are directly aligned to the 4 hallmarks of advanced literacies, and in particular, hallmark number 2, which is crucial for English language learners because it is about facilitating discussions to build both conversational and academic language and knowledge. Okay. Rich, academic, content-based discussions are essential for literacy development in all students, but it is extremely important for English language learners' language development. Though it is crucial to focus on professional learning opportunities that promote text-based oral academic discussions and writing opportunities, which are identified as high-impact practices at the secondary level in the literacy briefs. For this reason, our goal to support language and literacy development of ELS include promoting literacy across content areas via rich academic, content-based students' discussions by modeling lesson planning and delivery in co-integrated settings, offering literacy courses at the secondary level in their home language, such as Foundational Spanish for Native Speakers, which in turn improves literacy in English. Promoting student participation in leadership programs, such as the Puerto Rican Hispanic Youth Leadership Institute and the New York State Seal of Biliteracy, where students learn to further develop researching, debating, writing, and presentational skills. And finally, collaborating with the family and community engagement team to promote literacy development at home for our multilingual families. And now, I want to make sure that it's Mr. Eitri or Ms. Newman. Oh. So we'll go back? We go back.
Oh, we just go back?
There you go. Okay. It was out of order. Now I would like to introduce to you Ms. Newman, our Director of STEM, and she'll talk to us about science of reading and science and math. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I had no problem with them skipping over me because I was so nervous. I said, that's okay. But I am very excited to be here tonight to talk about how we're enhancing STEM education in our district by integrating literacy into our programs. This approach not only strengthens academic skills, but also supports our district's mission to prepare well-rounded, future-ready graduates. Portrait of a graduate. Okay, let me start by sharing some of the exciting activities our students are involved in that I was happy to observe. Engineering design challenges. Our students are working together to build prototypes focusing on sustainability and innovation. They research, plan, and present their solutions, combining hands-on STEM work with essential literacy skills. In the slide, there's actually a video if you wanted to view it at another time. Science experiments in subjects like physics, chemistry, earth science, and biology. Students are conducting hands-on lab investigations. They analyze text to develop hypotheses and write detailed lab reports to share their findings, which reinforces both scientific and literacy skills. Cell biology models. I have a model right here that a student made. I was so impressed with it, I said, I have to show it to you guys. Students create models of plant and animal cells, requiring them to read and understand the structure and function of each organelle. This project integrates literacy by requiring students to research information from various sources, write labels for their organelles, and often prepare presentations explaining their model. Mathematics projects. In our pre-calc honors class, students completed a unit circle poster project. On the front, they must include all special angles, their radian measures, and the sine, cosine, and tangent values for each angle. On the back, they create and solve 5 trig equations using the unit circle values, with at least one equation being quadratic. This project integrates literacy by requiring students to read and understand complex instructions. They generate their own mathematical problems. They clearly communicate their solutions through written work and encourage creative expression. And just to show you how creative their expression is, this is one of the projects that they produced. Okay. To support this work, our teachers are receiving targeted professional development. By focusing on literacy and STEM, we're not just helping students succeed academically, we're giving them the tools to think critically, solve problems, and communicate effectively. Exactly the portrait of a graduate. These are skills they need to thrive in college, careers, and life. I'd like to introduce someone who has been an integral part of our district's efforts to prepare students for success in STEM and beyond, the director of CTE, Mr. John Eitri. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. When we look at literacy in CTE, we have embedded for years literacy in all the curriculum maps across all our pathways. But what people do not know is that we also integrate the industry standards for literacy, which are the most crucial for our students. I'm going to give you an example of a student that I spoke to today. She is working at Ford in Newburgh, and I asked her, what is literacy? I really thought I was going to get a crappy answer, to be honest with you. She said to me, well, the most important thing my teacher helped me do was write my resume. I said, okay. I said, well, did he write your resume or did she? Did he? And she said, no, I did. And then he had to prove it. She goes, I won't lie. I went and copied one and stuck my information in. She goes, but the teacher used mine to show the class how to build a resume. She said, also, we learned to build my letter of interest, which was a great carryover. She next said, I wouldn't have known what to do except we do mock interviews in the classroom. So when I got there, I was able to speak to my resume without looking at it, and I spoke with confidence. She also had to complete an application. And I don't know as many of you do, I work with a lot of the community industry professionals, our local businesses. Students do not fill out applications correctly, and that's why they do not get callbacks. So we make sure to emphasize that. The last is the communication skills during an interview. How to speak, when to speak. If you don't know a question, to re-ask the question, it's okay. It's also okay to reiterate the question one more time to make sure you understood it as you answer. She also talked to me, I wouldn't have known what the heck was a W-2. And I said, so what did you do? And she goes, well, I knew to file zero. And so she explained all these things to me. I just thought she was just the most wonderful little girl. She also said, I also knew to write an email after my interview, and I knew how to correctly write my email, and so that it would be efficient, short, and with complete sentences, which I thought was very funny too. Also, this young lady spoke to me about working on the job. So now she's there, she's working. Where's literacy there? She's just working on a car, right? She said, absolutely not. I have to talk to my customers. When I see something wrong with the car, I have to write down what it is in detail. Bring it to the customers, say these are the solutions, where would we like to go? Now I repair the car. She says, what people do not know is we write down almost every detail about fixing a car. And it needs to be precise, it needs to be clear. Why do I do that? And I said, why do you do that? She goes, oh, that's how we make our money. Correct. So I just thought she was just a best example to share with you, rather than me talking to slides, is talking to a student today. Next slide. Oh, it's me. Oh, wrong way. No. Here, fix that thing. Up. Oh, that was me. Okay. By focusing on these areas of literacy integration, students in these CTE courses will be better prepared to succeed in their field, effectively using technical text, communication, and applying their industry-specific language. These strategies align with our New York State literacy briefs, which emphasize the development and academic literacy skills in real-world contexts and provide a pathway for students to apply to skills to their future careers. I also, a couple weeks ago, got to talk to a construction kid. He happened to be at the site of our new building, and I think the superintendent got to meet this person. His name is Jamel. He's a construction student that was working on the site, and he's been working with the company since he's graduated. He was an apprentice and now has moved on. Jamel was a high school student who always enjoyed building, but never realized that he was going to go to construction class and learn how to read, write, and communicate. Jamel joined our construction program and learned to read blueprints, technical documents, as part of working in the construction field. The teacher taught Jamel how to interpret detailed diagrams, such as identified load-bearing walls, measuring materials based on scale drawings. Part of being in construction, Jamel was asked to write a progress report on mock construction projects, what needed to be done, what still needed to be bought, and how effectively they could get this done before the project is complete. In construction, the final part, the student does a project. Jamel was to present a completed shed to the panel of local industry people from our community. Jamel explained to the group the decisions using proper vocabulary, pointing out features like roofing materials and the shed's foundation. By the end of the program, Jamel had gained not only hands-on construction skills, but also the ability to read complex plans, write precise reports, and communicate effectively, and use those skills not just in his job, but in his life. I want to thank you, and I want to introduce my Fine and Performing Arts Director, Kristen Johnson.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Anytime I get to talk about fine and performing arts to a captive audience, I'm always a happy person. Oh, thank you for moving my slide. Oh, this is great. Okay. So, the integration of literacy within the arts aligns directly with both the National Core Arts Standards and the New York State Learning Standards for the Arts and our 4 artistic processes, which, are below. They are creating, performing, presenting, producing, responding, and connecting. So the arts play a critical role in supporting literacy development in 2 specific domains. The first is improving vocabulary and language development. Artistic activities involve content-specific academic vocabulary and descriptive language, which enriches our students' vocabulary and language use. The second domain
is enhancing critical thinking and interpretation skills. In music, visual arts, drama, and dance, students learn to interpret symbols, narratives, and abstract ideas, which aligns very closely with literacy skills. Literacy in the arts is a call to action, which invites our students to become active participants in their learning. Through art, dance, drama, and music, literacy becomes an engaging and dynamic process. By encouraging students to analyze, create, and express themselves through various art forms, educators can simultaneously develop the literacy skills of students who may have struggled to connect with literacy tasks in the past. The arts offer a pathway for reinvigorating students' love of reading, writing, and communication by tapping into their creativity. This act of sort of hiding the vegetables in the sauce invites our students to embrace learning and integrates literacy with the arts, fosters a deeper connection to academic content, which motivates our students to become both skilled and enthusiastic communicators. You never know when you'll be presenting at a board meeting, students. Fine and performing arts literacy activities examples and their literacy briefs alignments are below. The first, artistic process and reflection, correlates directly to literacy through writing, critical thinking, and argumentation. So if you walk down the hall, right down towards the bathroom, you see our distinguished artist art gallery with the beautiful artwork there. So every year for our permanent art show, the students have to write, they detail their artistic process and rationale. And those written statements go underneath the artwork, so you can see those anytime they're yearly, so it'll be different every year. But the students write that, and sometimes even as young as kindergarten and pre-K, the teachers will help them with the writing part if they're still working on their fine motor skills, but that comes from the students, and it's their thought process and critical thinking about what they made, which is very important. The analysis of artistic works correlates to literacy through reading comprehension and interpretation. So comparing and contrasting themes, using that academic vocabulary that they have from their respective arts courses. Finally, investigate connection of artistic works to societal, cultural, and historical contexts. That translates to literacy through research. So research projects, text-based evidence. So for example, right now for the spring musical, I can tell you now that it's Footloose. They're starting to analyze some of the really important themes that's happening. So they're talking about rebellion and personal freedom, tradition versus change, and healing and community, which is very pertinent right now as well. Art processes which support classroom literacy are taken from NECSD Literacy Brief number 6, and those are those images down there at the bottom of the slide. So as students start to progress from elementary to our middle and high school levels, their artistic abilities and skill levels really begin to mature and take shape. This allows them to express themselves with greater confidence. As a result, students who may have struggled to connect with literacy tasks in the past may find new motivation through artistic activities as they enter the secondary level by leveraging their strengths and interests in the arts. I'm so excited to now introduce Mr. Christian Hodge, who will talk to you about literacy as it integrates with physical education and health. You're welcome.
Good evening. So first I want to kind of go off with Mr. Eitri. So as far as physical and education, I want to now give us a plug. The first thing I do want to say, physical education, health, and you've probably heard this term, extension of the classroom. So one of the things that I like to always brag about, and I will say this, athletics is the extension outside of our classroom. And it starts with phys ed and health as a young student. So if you were to go to, like I go around to some of our elementary schools, and I can see the light bulbs going off on some students. And I see the word walls, and then they start talking about things. And then they start doing, basic movements. And then what we see, and I'm just gonna throw out this, I'm sorry, I'm a Boston Celtic fan. Then you see Jaylen Brown just got a $300 million contract, but he was also a Rhodes Scholar at Cal Berkeley. Okay, so when we go back to talking about the extension from the classroom, it starts in my world, I have to just talk about my world now, it starts in that PE and health classroom. And so one of the things that I like to talk about is integrating literacy into phys ed and health classes. It definitely does enhance students' learning experience by combining all of that physical, mental, and academic growth. So it's not all about just dodgeball. And thank goodness they got rid of dodgeball. But back in my day, I will admit, I was the man in dodgeball. We actually did talk about that with some of my PE teachers today, and I will be totally honest, it was not great for every student. But the core principles. Literacy is foundational for all disciplines, including my discipline of physical education and health. Strategies include explicit instruction, scaffolding, and you wouldn't even think about that. I'm sounding like the math lady right now. Scaffolding, but then when we start getting into higher level, when you go from like second grade to third grade, you would be shocked. If any of you have like a second grader, and then how they talk about the fifth graders, it's huge. Do you get that? I mean, it's huge, and I've actually heard it. Like I was over at Fostertown, and I heard the kids, oh, those are the fourth graders, man. I can't wait till we can get in Mr. So-and-so's class. It's the same thing in phys ed and health. And the students get health through their science classes from K to 6, and then as they get into 8th grade, then they get into higher level health classes. Collaboration with other departments. This is a big part, and now that this is actually a state mandate, a state initiative, it's going to be a little easier for us to coordinate with other departments like the language, the math, the English, the science, the social studies to encourage more collaboration with on-hands actual projects. And there's a lot of things that we can do to that. The relevance, we all know the relevance. It's really one of the state standards, national standards. Phys ed and health is all about lifelong fitness. So I know y'all heard this term. All of us old folks like myself, everybody's talking about pickleball. So everybody's coming out of the woodworks now, going back to the club to play pickleball. And guess what? That's lifelong fitness. So that's one of the basic foundations for health. But we want to encourage literacy because we want the students to be able to understand the different systems, nutrition, and fitness principles. As well as also when you go into the key aspects of literacy brief after doing some research myself, our health classes, they already analyze nutritional labels and summarize health research findings. Another thing that happens in the high school in health, they have to actually do a research project at the end of their year in health related to some type of health topic. So they are getting those tools needed that will help them, again, lifelong fitness. I have to throw that in. And then the benefits, it builds cross-disciplinary literacy skills, so I can have conversations with these folks here. We're not just jocks. And I will throw this plug out there. My last 5 years, the valedictorian has been an athlete. I just got to throw that out there. So it encourages clarity and precision in both verbal and written communications, because it's very important. I would like to now pass this on to Dr. Soto. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So we hope you enjoyed our presentation. We have the best team here. But before we end, I ask that you all please take notice of this space. Look around you. Look at all of our scholars. This is science reading in practice. Also, please look behind you. You can see the Goldie evolving into that Goldback. And with that, I'd like to share a story about a scholar's journey from curiosity to career. So let's call this scholar Sam. So Sam is a bright-eyed 5-year-old Goldie who enters his kindergarten classroom, where the world of reading awaits him. The room is filled with cozy nooks and stacks of books. He picks up his first storybook, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and begins to learn sounds, letters, and simple words. He practices on the carpet, imagining the characters in his mind, developing a love for stories and creativity, the foundation of the science of reading. With each page turn, Sam begins to recognize patterns using phonics to break down words, a process that strengthens his ability to decode and comprehend. As Sam moves through his elementary years, his teachers introduce more structured reading strategies, Now able to decode fluently, he's taught how to interact with complex sentences and vocabulary. Guided by his teachers and through the science of reading principles, he becomes an avid reader, drawn to stories about adventures and mysteries. His imagination soars. Reading not only teaches him how to dream, but also strengthens his critical thinking and analytical skills. Sam learns to summarize, make inferences, and relate to characters, developing empathy and creativity, key elements in the district's portrait of a graduate. In middle school, Sam's reading extends beyond imagination. It fuels his curiosity about the world. As part of the curriculum, he reads about science, history, and culture, connecting his reading to real-world scenarios. He's introduced to project-based learning and group discussions that align with science of reading methods, which emphasize comprehension, vocabulary development, and critical thinking. He begins writing his own stories and articles, which improves his communication and collaboration skills. Again, competencies highlighted in the portrait of a graduate. Through reading and research projects, he sees the power of words in shaping his understanding of different perspectives, learning about more civic responsibility and compassion. In high school, Sam's reading reaches new levels of depth and purpose. He enrolls in a CTE elective where he explores vocational fields through literature, technical reading, and research. The science of reading remains central as teachers help him dissect complex texts, analyze data, and apply his knowledge practically. He develops technical skills in fields like environmental science and languages other than English, reading technical manuals in his vocational classes and case studies and social studies classes that bridge his imagination and real-world impact. Guided by the portrait of a graduate, Sam learns adaptability, resilience, self-management. Reading is no longer a pastime. It's a vehicle for preparing him for college, career, and life. He can communicate his ideas effectively, think critically, and is prepared to navigate the complexities of higher education and the workforce. As Sam graduates, he is equipped with skills built through the science of reading and honed by the portrait of a graduate. His journey from a curious child on a classroom carpet to a young adult ready for college and career shows how reading has not only fueled his imagination, but prepared him for a purposeful life and ready to shape the world, ready to shape our Newburgh community. He is ready to bring creativity, empathy, critical thinking, and resilience to every endeavor, equipped with literacy skills and a mindset to continue learning and adapting. Sam is a go-back. And I would like to thank all of our presenters. We have the greatest team ever, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation. Thank you. Last slide. Questions, if we have any. Great, thank you. Have a good night, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Soto and our amazing directors. I have item 4.3, resolution to authorize the superintendent of schools to execute a contract, New York State. Excuse me, 4.4, I apologize.
Can I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes. Okay, so I'll turn it over to the clerk of the board.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 5.1 through 5.3 on consent.
Can I have a motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
That concludes my items, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, now, the 6.1, developing a facilities committee. This is a discussion. Mr. Stewart?
Thank you. With all the projects we got going on, plus the ages of all our buildings, I just thought it'd be prudent that we put together a facilities committee to discuss ongoing projects.
Anyone else? Oh, Victoria?
I'd actually like to make a motion, so if anyone else would like to comment on that, I'll wait.
Could you repeat that?
I want to make a motion to go into executive session, but if someone else has a question about 6.1, I can wait till after they speak.
Mr. DeRay?
Just to comment, I second what Mr. Stewart said. I think it should be a separate committee. There was a facilities committee some time ago, and it was very good. You did get updates on the projects, and you were able to explain it to the rest of the board. So thank you.
Mackenzie?
I'd like to volunteer for that committee. I'd like to volunteer for that committee.
Anyone else?
I'd like to volunteer also.
Okay. Mac. Right. Do we have a third?
Point of order. Madam President, are we volunteering for a committee that has not been created yet? We have to create it first, correct?
Okay.
I mean, I'm just asking, do we? Shouldn't we?
It's just good to know who's interested in being on the committee. Mr. Stewart?
Can I make a motion to create the facilities committee?
Can I have a second?
Second.
And a roll call.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Point of order, do you want to add that to the agenda?
Yes. Okay, so a motion to add to the agenda to create or to develop a facilities committee. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call.
This is a roll call to add. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
So you've added the item, ma'am. Now you need to entertain a motion to then create the committee.
Okay. Okay. A motion to create a facilities committee. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Howard?
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, so I think this is a great idea, but what would be the parameters of the committee? Who would serve on the committee? What would be the numbers on the committee? Are we going to determine that all tonight, or are we just taking interest ideas?
No, I think I mean, it's up to the board as a whole, but I think it's,
What will be the parameters of the committee?
Mr. Stewart?
I think to discuss all construction projects going forward, any maintenance projects going forward, anything that has to do with facilities. And I know we got a lot of old buildings that are going to need maintenance going forward. And I think we're going to get a 5-year plan not too long from now with all the facilities. Is that correct, Ms. Warren?
The district will do its BCS, Building Condition Survey, in the 25-26 school year.
So I think we need to have a facilities committee created to discuss that.
Would this be similar to the Buildings and Grounds Committee of the past, or would this be a specific to the upcoming items that Mr. Stewart just discussed?
Mr. Stewart?
I think it'd be open to discussion, you know, and the board could make a consensus what we should be looking at, but anything to do with buildings and grounds, I think would be acceptable also.
So, if I could we table this so we can have a proper discussion, so we can come back and have a better idea of what we want to do with this instead of creating something that you may want to change later, and perhaps we can do this at the next meeting?
You're making a motion?
Yeah, we'll like to put a motion on the floor of the table.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Roll call to table. Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay? Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Resolution 6.2,
Point of order. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Can I have a second?
The purpose would be to consult our board attorney regarding the president's section on this agenda.
Okay. Roll call?
Roll call for executive session. Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
No.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
So what was the purpose, the reason to discuss the entire board president section?
Specifically 6.2, I was advised by counsel that
Oh, okay.
it needed to be in private.
The students, because that's also another unplanned expense. And so I don't know if you wanted to weigh in, Ms. Peterson?
I just want to also break it down in terms of just a kind of a layman's response. I think it's important so that we all understand what we're saying. So as a board, you have the oversight to call for a forensic audit. And part of your fiduciary responsibility is definitely to see if we're doing things right fiscally. If there's a question to that, the very management team shouldn't construct the RFP for the forensic audit that you have concerns about. We should kind of facilitate and collaborate with whatever forensic audit team you should suggest. We don't know the scope. We don't know. There were things kind of thrown at the last meeting in terms of areas that you wanted to look into, but it's not something that we should be facilitating because it's our work. So our oversight is to the operations, the financial management, those different things. So we wouldn't want to construct an RFP that would then invalidate or do something that you're not looking for, as well as collaborate and work with an audit team when you guys have concerns that we don't have. So we think it's best if, some of that needs to come from the board. It's the board's reasoning for a forensic audit, so you should collaborate and work to facilitate that.
Anyone else? So basically, the administration is saying it's a conflict of interest. Okay. I get it.
Okay, thank you.
Victoria?
So can I ask Mr. Shaw what would be our next step?
I think that the extent of the forensic audit would have to be identified by the board through a resolution. So far, I think you had mentioned a review of the construction projects and also the energy performance that had been specified. Anything to be specified beyond that really needs to be better defined, and Now it ought to be done by the board through resolution.
Can I follow up? Can you also explain how the company that did what we discussed on the 23rd, you had mentioned something that they can do a targeted audit. Can you explain that?
So the internal audit function, which came into effect with the Hevesi legislation for fiscal accountability back about 15 years ago, every year a district this size has to have at least one forensic audit. That's done by your internal auditor, not your claims auditor. And your internal auditor could be assigned more than one area for forensic auditing. So for that, you wouldn't need to do an RFP. You would just find other targets for your internal auditor to review.
Would that cost us more money?
Every forensic audit is going to cost money. I don't know if someone here knows what the last one cost. I've seen them cost $10,000 to $20,000 per forensic audit, but I haven't really reviewed that for a number of years.
So that would be an additional expense. The board has not yet chosen its special area for fiscal '25 for the internal auditor to review. So if you decided to designate something that you're particularly interested in around this topic to them, that would be part of our already planned expense. If you did something additional, that would be additional expense.
Okay. Mr. Howard?
So for clarification, so we had this discussion at the last meeting, and we had a discussion around the items that they wanted to do the request for the RFP, that we would forward that information to the internal auditor with the January report. So am I of the understanding, Ms. Roaring, if they forwarded that information for that work to be done with the internal auditor, would that be additional money, or would that be under the work scope that we've already paid for?
So we haven't paid for it yet because it hasn't been performed, but we have planned to have one special area looked at that is required every year. If we were to add a second special area and/or a third special area, that would come at an additional cost. But the internal auditor has not yet started their work, so if the board wanted to make such decision, we could provide them direction in advance of their start.
Can you give me an approximation of the cost of that, to add those, if we did add items?
I don't have that offhand because we just changed auditors this year, so I'd have to refamiliarize myself with their schedule.
So if we went that route, would that be in lieu of an RFP for a forensic audit? It would, David? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Peterson?
At the last meeting of the Audit and Finance, and at the board meeting on the 23rd, this was the advice that Cabinet gave to the board at that time, that they had not utilized the one for the year. We reviewed again the areas in which, and the auditor also said, internal and external at that time, said the board, if there was a concern about the area, that they can ask the external auditor. So these questions were asked and answered in Audit and Finance as well as on the floor.
Mr. DeRay?
I just have a question on the time frame, Ms. Roy. When is that audit taking place?
At this time, they're scheduled to come in March and begin their risk assessment and conduct their special area. They're not due to the state until the following spring, so they have time.
Mr. Bugarelli?
Thank you. Maybe a dumb question. Do they have to rotate? Do you have to go through all special areas audited before you go back to a certain area, or just every year it could be the same thing, we can hit it?
There is no required rotation that I'm aware of. Mr. Shaw can tell me if I'm incorrect.
Agreed.
So that would be at the board's discretion. The audit committee usually assigns that work to the internal auditor each year based on what the concerns may or may not be.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, for final clarification, so are we going to go the route of the internal auditor to do that work, or are we still seeking an RFP for a forensic audit?
Mr. Stewart?
I'm going to try to schedule another Audit and Finance Committee meeting, probably not the next board meeting, but the following one, and then we'll probably go the route of the internal auditor to start with. I think that's the right way to go. By that time, I'll be able to look at all the stuff for this coming year that was just posted, and I'll go through it pretty thoroughly.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, 6.4. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Howard?
Yes, so what would be the scope of this resolution to get requests for proposal for a board budget consultant? What would that work look like? And what would be the cost of that, of going in that direction to apply a consultant to do that work?
That would be the purpose of the RFP. Would tell us, but go ahead, Victoria.
I would actually like Mr. Shaw to explain what a board budget consultant would do.
Okay, so this resolution indicates that the information sought, best practices for budget development and tracking the budget. Those are aspects you probably learned about in your fiscal training when you became board members. Right.
So we're putting out a request for proposal for people to come and tell us or explain something that we should already know.
Well, honestly, if you already,
I'm talking to David.
oh, okay.
There really isn't a legal question there. You know, you're board members and you have a certain knowledge base. This is looking for a consultant who's going to give you some professional advice. That's what this is.
Ms. Politi?
Yes, I have a problem with this because I think that we have people sitting at this table who are doing a good job and make a lot of money doing that job, and then we're going to take money that was not budgeted for away from children, again, not focusing on students first because there's some crusade to be on. It's inappropriate.
Well, did you read the auditor's report, the external auditor's report?
Yes.
Okay, so it was less than stellar, and that's putting it mildly. And that was voted on by the last board. So we're supposed to know what we're doing, but apparently no one is.
What was less than stellar, Madam President?
The report.
Which portion of the report was less than stellar?
Okay, there we go. All right, hold on. Okay, they've experienced some of the same problems that many of the board members have, that you can't get timely receipt of things that you're asking for with regards to financing. There was one. Weaknesses in internal controls. That was two. Tons of red flags. Let me see. Revenues and expenditures do not agree.
Was this question asked and explained to you already? Because I believe it was. I believe it was explained to all of us.
Well, we just got the report. And all these things, they weren't all explained. They were not. Oh, Ms. Peterson.
The draft audit was provided to the board December 23rd ahead of the special meeting. Questions were asked and answered. Many of the board members, some board members did respond. There was also on a finance committee, which the entire board was asked and invited to come and attend. with our external auditors who presented some of the concerns. Many of the concerns that were discussed in that executive meeting were concerns that were brought to the board on several occasions starting in the summertime. So to say that some of the things have not been explained, especially I've been facilitating a lot of that work with Mrs. Roaring and making sure that the board was aware of the concerns that were coming out of that office, is quite shocking to me that things were not communicated when I was the person that was communicating them.
It was, I have to say, when I read that report, it was quite shocking to me. So it was not like, oh, Ms. Peterson.
There are definitely concerns that we made the board well aware of. Some of our personnel decisions are reflective of the concerns that we were having. Audit and Finance was the one committee that actually met because there were these concerns and there were questions that were being brought about by board members regarding our finances and timelines, where me and Mrs. Roaring communicated on a consistent basis, as well as trying to facilitate representation from the external auditors to ensure that the board was well informed, as well as offering times in which financial training can occur, which only one board member did take advantage of to date. So I do think when you say that there hasn't been communication, and when you say that we haven't been transparent in the finances, I take great issue with that, because we have tried to be extremely transparent about what is going on. We understand the community's concerns. We know that we have tough budget cycles that are coming up, and we have sought to make sure that there is clear and concise communication around our budget and our fiscal planning. So to say that is a misnomer. We've tried to be extremely transparent. We've communicated in executive, in public, about the concerns that we were having.
But the bottom line is, the board members need the financial reports. And today was the first day I was able to read a budget status report, which is something that should be given to us monthly. And we haven't gotten that. We haven't had a treasurer's report in ages, internal monthly reports, appropriation status, warrant reports, budget transfer reports, food service reports, extracurricular activity reports, or fund balance estimates. And we should be getting these every month.
I don't disagree with you, Mrs. Bello. As our communication with Audit and Finance, as well as if you look on tonight's agenda, you'll see an appointment of a treasurer. So this is one of the things the administration has been actively communicating with the Audit and Finance around some of the concerns we have. I cannot give you a treasury report to monthly financials without a treasurer. Those things go hand in hand, which have been explained at Audit and Finance. There was a request made by a board member regarding some of our warrants and checks that they weren't being received. We made those reports available within 24 hours of the request. In our communication, as soon as we closed the books, because I cannot give you a treasurer's report without the closing of our last fiscal, which was just approved in December, you received July and August financial reports, checks, and warrants, and we gave you September's warrants. So as soon as we had them available to you, our business department was able to flip those reports and give them to you immediately. So to paint the picture that we have not been communicative and that we are not open to releasing reports it's not true. We have been very transparent with the Audit and Finance and the board with the limitations in terms of what reporting we can give.
Mr. DeRay.
Just for clarification, 6.4 is resolution to authorize requests for a board budget consultant, and you have the external audit in front of you. We're going back and forth about reports. How would the board, regarding the process for developing the school budget, solve anything that it seems to me to be two very different issues? That this is a position you want to create, but it has nothing to do really with the external audit or the result of the external audit. This is at the front end. You're at the back end after the audit.
We're not, a board budget consultant
Yeah.
to help us with the upcoming budget.
Correct. I understand that. but you're reading from an external audit with problems.
No, I was not, on the reports and everything. Yes, on this audit, but what I'm saying is, a member of the board said that we should know how to budget, but yet I had nothing to do with passing the budget that was just audited. Okay? So it was a mess. It wasn't, it just wasn't good. So, you know, that's why I'm saying we need help.
Could a budget consultant help us with the audit? I'm totally,
No, that's a complete,
but that's
no.
the resolution. See, that's my issue. The resolution
I know, but
is-
that's, we got off
the rails.
off track. Okay. Mr. Bugarelli.
Because that is a problem. You're talking about two different things. How would a budget consultant address the fact that we didn't have a treasurer and that we didn't have some key personnel in finance in place? And that's why some of those reports and some of those audit findings were the way they were. And when the members of the Audit and Finance Committee were asked, did they get their questions answered? Yes. Were the solutions there? Yes. What does a consultant for something that it's not even the same thing? The audit is not the budget. It's the finances of the district. It's two different things you're talking about.
Okay. I hear you. So, well, I'm just saying, we got off track because someone said that, oh, we should know how to budget, and I was making reference to the fact that apparently you didn't know how to budget because we had a terrible budget last year. So that's how it got off
Why
track.
was the budget terrible last year?
It was terrible.
Why was the budget terrible last year? I'm curious.
Because there were so many things.
Because we didn't
wrong.
raise taxes for 9 years, because we gave all the unions the raises which they deserved. So why was the budget terrible last year?
Well, when you claim that we had a deficit, you tell the public that we had a deficit.
When we didn't raise taxes for 9 years.
And then, excuse me.
Oh, please, go ahead.
So we didn't, you tell the public that we had a deficit and therefore we needed to raise taxes. That's what you told the public.
We had a deficit?
That's what they said.
Maybe.
And then later on, after the budget was passed, then it was stated, we may have a surplus.
Maybe the experts want to answer.
I just want to ensure, especially when we're talking about fiscal things and regarding budget development, Mrs. Roaring may also know this, that we're very clear as to why we told the community we needed to raise taxes. So to say that we had a deficit, at any budget, if you're fiscally planning, there should be some surplus left over. We are a district that funds many different things. And in funding many different things, we need to make sure at the end that we have a little left over to fulfill certain requests, whether there's, we're self-insured for health insurance. Sometimes there's lawsuits that come into a district. A goal of a budget is not to spend everything down to zero. We need to put things in saving. To be honest, with our surplus and what we had left over, we actualized one-time funding. We made sure that the district had the supplies and resources to the fullest extent expended through one-time funding, and we had enough money to put in surplus to cover litigations that many of the board members knew were on the table. So I take exception to saying that we had a bad budget. Our budget was projections on what our expenditures were, and we came very close to that. So I say that that is a good job.
And one of the things that I want you to be careful that you're putting out to the public, you're being very evaluative, that we put a budget, we made a mess. We're professionals. This is our work, it's what we do. So I'm going to recommend that you refrain from doing that.
Ms. Paletti.
Yeah, for clarification purposes, we didn't get off track. You got off track defending your reasons to hire a budget consultant and take money that was not budgeted for away from children, and you started defending that with an audit that was two totally different things. You came to the dais when you were sworn in and had no information. I don't even think you watched the board meetings before you were sworn in. You said that we exceeded the tax cap, which we did not. And now you're sitting here calling it a bad budget. I really don't think you have any clue how the budget works. And it's very disheartening to hear a board president who was sworn to serve the district say such disparaging things over and over again about the institution.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes. I want to address the budget question. So first of all, we did get the audit report, and there was a lot of discrepancies in there. One thing was we had to transfer around $54 million to get everything balanced. They did that, and part of it is going to be finalized tonight. They did find some discrepancies. Number one, we did ask for checks back on July 2nd, and we were told we could not get copies of the checks because of privacy issues. It wasn't until the Audit and Finance Committee came together and requested the checks, and they gave it to us within 24 hours. At the Audit and Finance Committee, when we did have last meeting with the auditor, all our questions did get answered. But there are some things on the report that were a little disturbing, like bank reconciliations didn't match up. The fact that the checks don't have reasons behind them, which they're addressing now. I was the one that did meet with Ms. Roaring with the finance things. I think a lot of stuff is being improved, but I do think we do need help creating a budget because of all the transfers that were made to reconcile everything. That is a lot of money to be moved around to try to balance everything out. I think the total number of the budget was fine, but I think fine-tuning it is where we need the help, fine-tuning it. Not the total number, because the district is growing and we are gonna have growing pains. So that's where I think we need help, is fine-tuning the budget.
Ms. Peterson.
I don't think that we need I don't disagree in that we do need fine tuning. I also think that we need community education around the size and the scope of the district and the staffing needing to run a department of its size. I know that we often talk about the fact that Newburgh is a large district, but I think the volume and scope of work that has to be facilitated takes staffing. And there were numerous occasions where there were key positions that, when we talk about bank reconciliations, when we talk about reporting, there's one function that within the business department that has to be segmented from another function. So we can't cross that work. So when we're setting up those structures, we do need competent staffing. I think that in the resolution later this evening, Mrs. Roaring talked about those transfers, and some of those transfers were also, and Ms. Roaring, you can correct me if I'm wrong, were to facilitate some of our one-time finding and also to close out some of the books. So, and she's about to correct me because I may be wrong.
I'm not, I'm going to add to it. It was also to cover unexpected expenses such as settlements.
Yes.
Which is the large transfer on tonight's agenda.
So a budget, again, is a projection. So if needs come up, money must be transferred to cover the unexpected expense. I do think that communication and sitting down and for people to get common language about what we do as a district is best. I think that we have a large district, we see a large budget number, we think that there's a lot of ability in that, but when you look at our overall budget numbers, you will see we are tight. It's very tight, so we need to be wise about how we do expend our money.
Mr. Bugarelli.
Thank you. Just one thing I want to be really clear about, what you said, Mr. Stewart, when you said, concerning about moving all the monies around, transfer of funds and things like that. I think with a district of this size, over, $300 million budget, $900 million district, it's a very, very different industry than what you're used to. It's a very, very different industry than what I'm used to. In telecom, we don't do that kind of stuff. We don't move the monies around. In your business, I'm sure you probably don't do it either, so it's very uncomfortable with you. But in a school district, I don't think it's as rare. I think it's probably kind of normal business to cover, because you have to try to decide what the costs are going to be for the entire year when they're changing the entire year. I imagine it's a very normal thing.
That would be accurate. We have different student needs that arise. We have different staffing needs that arise that we don't know when we propose a budget to the board in the springtime. Those things continue to evolve throughout the year. We have to meet our students' needs as we go throughout the year. So we will shift funds to make sure that we can cover out-of-district tuition or additional teachers that we need in the classroom to make sure our students can succeed.
Mr. Stewart?
You're quite right about that, Ray, but last year was very unusual. I looked at all the budgets for the past years. This was a very unusual year, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me that $54 million being moved around just to balance all the funds was unusual. But to Ms. Onyx's report, I think staffing had definitely a lot to do with it. And I said that before the committee, we didn't have any key succession and personnel backing up personnel to get the job done correctly. And I think when I met with Ms. Roaring yesterday, a lot of that stuff is going to be addressed. And having the treasurer that was not really completing the reports.
Can't say.
Oh, okay. All right, well, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one clarification. You guys are throwing around a very large number, but that number is not strictly the general fund. And that really needs to be clear, because that total sum of over $50 million touched the capital fund, the special aid fund, the cafeteria fund, and the general fund. It was not just general fund.
Ms. Peterson?
And last year was a very unusual year in that the district had large settlements. The district closed out American Rescue Plan, which was one-time funding. So yes, it was an unusual year. There was a lot of financial things that the district had to execute last year, and I do agree with you, staffing was a huge part of that. So our books did look different. I'm probably forgetting something. We had some capital project stuff, correct?
I just wanted to add one more clarification. I think it's important to note when you look at the financials that the district spent the vast majority of our budget. The reason why we had fund balance was because we had additional revenue that was unanticipated.
And the other thing, to make myself familiar with the budget, I did the entire year 22-23. I went through every transfer, every budget meeting, and everything came out good. I just want to say that. I did go through everything, A to Z.
You've made that statement many times, but Ms. Bello still is putting out there when she sits at this podium that we made a mess, and that's very damaging. We are career professionals on this dais, and I don't appreciate it. So I think if you can remind her, because when I say it, it falls on deaf ears. It is very disheartening and disrespectful.
I haven't gone through 23-24. I plan on doing that thoroughly, just like I did the other one. But I noticed that, once, I can't say that, things changed at a certain point, and things were not available, records were not available, information was not available. That is now becoming available, and I will look at everything thoroughly, I promise you.
Mr. Howard?
So, Madam President, I think it's important, the sharing of information. And as committees are subcommittees of the whole. So when a committee meets with a department head, a committee meets and gets information that has been spoken here tonight that should have been relayed to other board members, and other people are speaking as if they never heard what was discussed in committee or when those meetings took place with the finance chair and stuff, I think that's where we're missing the boat here. Because as a subcommittee of the whole, that committee should be reporting back to the entire board those conversations and that information. And what I'm hearing is that you didn't get that information. And he said it three or four times. And you keep saying that we don't have this, we don't have that, but it was explained why. And am I correct, Mr. Stewart?
One thing you're going to find out from me, I don't pull any punches, I say it like I see it. Okay, I did do 22-23, I have not done 23-24. I see a lot of issues, I see a lot of red flags, but a lot of them are being addressed.
Right, and the reasoning, what I'm saying is the reason that when they explain things to you, you did share out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Roll call.
6.4 roll call, Mr. Howard. Ms. Politi.
No.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello.
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello.
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
No.
Mr. Duray?
No.
That item passes.
I just want to say one thing. I just want to make sure that when the findings are presented and they align with everything that we've said, that there's also a public presentation from the board president, because, I have some concerns, but perhaps Ms. Roaring, those are some things that we'll talk about regarding the budget, because that's some of our work that we do. It's our work. So we'll figure out what happens next with this RFP, what we do next as administration.
Madam President, you would need to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the following purpose: matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, employment history of particular individuals, corporations, matters made confidential under FERPA, and to obtain advice from legal counsel.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Okay, so I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Thank you, Madam President. On the Human Resources agenda this evening, we have items 8.1 through 8.20 for your consideration on consent.
Does anyone want to separate any out? Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
You don't want to separate? Wait. I'm sorry. I lost my cookies. I just want to make sure I'm on the right place. I'm sorry. Okay, we're in 8, right? We're in 8, correct? I'm sorry.
8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm good. Sorry.
Okay, roll call.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President.
There's just two things on there. Just wanted to make sure you see my hand.
Ms. Peterson?
So I have a happy and a sad thing on this HR agenda tonight. The happy thing is, not on this agenda, one thing is happy and one thing is, Jim, I cannot even tell you how much I thank you. Highlighted. It's sad. It's actually Mr. McGrath's problem, which I'm happy that he is here. I'm ecstatic that he is here. But it's sad because I just know the dedication and commitment that you have given this district over your career, and we just thank you for just even coming into the district. Jim was my person that if I had a tough tech issue that was, basically Windows to its core, he was the man to fix all the settings and get it right. And he's always willing to do whatever extra to support anything that has happened since my day one. So when he told me that he was retiring, I said, well, Jim, you have to come back and hopefully when we're in need, sub or do different things. And he said he had to get some permission for that, but I think it's been granted. But it really was. So we just thank you. And, we still have time, but I'm just, very sad by that. And Mr. McGrath, we are so excited to have you here, and I know that this is your first board meeting here. And already we just see the wonderful things that are going to happen for technology in this district. So we just thank you. I know that it's like, yes, you're here. I feel so relieved, and the department's in great hands, so just welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Peterson, for everything that you've done in technology. You really have left it in a great place for me to take it to the next level. So thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, so I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance.
Finance Division has items 9.1 to 9.24 on consent.
Does anyone want to separate any out? Victoria?
9.8, please.
Okay. No one else? Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Second. I have roll call on item 9.1 through 9.24 minus 9.8.
Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes. Item 9.8, can I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Discussion? Victoria?
I just wanted some clarification. The Prop 5 was voted on at the last election, correct?
Prop 5 was approved by the voters in May of 2019.
Is there any way you can tell us where we're at with that? So if, let's say that this is what we're getting, if we have $10 million budgeted and we do 13, where would that money come from?
So this is phase 1 of Prop 5. I would encourage you guys to look at our capital project updates for more information as it pertains to Prop 5 and the status of the next steps.
So I have a question. I just thought this was a little bit misleading because the resolution itself said, oh. Oh, okay. All right, it was a typo. Okay. That's why I was, okay, thanks. Roll call.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes,
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
That concludes my items.
thank you. I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent, CIO/DPO.
Thank you, thank you. I present to you, Madam President, thank you. Those are a lot of initials.
Don't I know it?
So tonight I present to you two resolutions, 10.1 and 10.2. One deals with an E-rate savings. I want to call this out. This is some of the amazing work that happens here where the district is using federal programs and capitalizing to bring in an 85% discount to the district. It's a major piece of, you know, you talk about fiduciary responsibility, and again, I'm taking it the last mile, and I have to kick it back and credit Ms. Peterson for all the work that she's done on this, but this is an amazing piece to help build up our network and do some refresh piece. That's one of the pieces tonight, and again, I need to give credit where it's due. The other piece we have is a renewal for our Google contract, and that is, of course, is our main learning management system for our students. Two items.
Does anyone want to separate any of those? No. Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second. Okay, discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello? Ms.
Yes.
Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Okay. And now I'll turn the next resolutions over to the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction Elementary.
The Office of Curriculum and Instruction Elementary presents item 1.2 and 11.1. Where am I? What time is it? He's making me laugh. 11.1, 11.2 on consent.
Does anyone want to separate any out? Thomasina?
11.2, please.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for 11.1?
So moved.
And a second? Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Resolution 11.2, can I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. DeRay? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
No.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
No.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
That concludes our items. Thank you.
Okay. And turning it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Secondary.
Thank you. Our division presents agenda items 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3 for the board's consideration on consent.
Point of order, you got 12.1 through 12.5.
My apologies. Again, where am I, right? 12.1 through 12.5.
Okay, does anyone want to separate any out?
12.1, please.
Okay, so can I have a motion on 12.2 through 12.5? And a second? Okay. Did we get to a second? Discussion? No. Roll call.
Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Resolution 12.1, can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? Victoria?
I just want to make sure that we're right in this where there's a couple lines down. It says that they're going to Orlando with no cost. So I just want to make sure that's correct.
Okay.
That is
so-
correct.
So they're going, there's no cost? No cost for the flight? No cost at all?
So I think we put it in the admin content what it was, but we can explain so that the public knows, so that we can make sure that we're explaining. Dr. Freeman Mac, do you wish to explain?
The Orlando one is for the Master Sergeant from ROTC. So that one I'm not familiar. I believe with the ROTC one, Lisa, you can chime in. I believe the organization that is sponsoring that pays for that fully. So when that happens, there is not a cost to the district in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so I noticed that there were so many of these conferences and so many of the people going weren't teachers. So when they're away on that conference, don't we have to hire substitutes?
Administrators? Not necessarily, not.
Some were teachers.
So tell me which one, so I can look down. And while you're looking, oftentimes that's when the conference is offered, and if those folks are involved in the program, those are the folks who have to go. So we cannot not send a teacher because we have to provide coverage as a part of professional development, and oftentimes it's within the program that they are working in. So that's when the conference is being offered. I know, but that's what I'm saying is that sometimes if they're part of the program, then they have to go because it's a requirement of the program or the grant that we received. Ms. Peterson wants to respond.
So I just also want to bring to note, and I know that Dr. Freeman Mac didn't mention this, but I think it's something that she should be commended upon. One of the things that I asked her and Kevin Rothman was to do to find me some technology money and find me grants. And this is one of the grants that's executed, so you do see a large number of individuals signed up with no cost to the district to learn about AI. Often in urban districts, there's not time, space, or money to talk about cutting edge technology things. So this is one of the grants that they found and the district was awarded. And this professional development is allowing administration and as well as teachers that teach technology-focused courses, as well as our instructional facilitators and technology facilitators, to be professionally developed on AI. So it's a wonderful opportunity at no cost. So that's a part of some of the work that is done that Dr. Freeman Mack does and Mr. Rothman at the time did in order to make sure that we have the best resources and professional development for teachers.
So with the artificial intelligence coherence grant, and they're looking at coherence as it relates to innovation, which is key. Coherence is key to innovation. So with this grant, what's really incredible about it is the first iteration. The other, I want to just let the board and everybody know who's listening who else is participating, because there are only 2 schools in New York that are participating. And we were chosen as one of those schools, the only public school that is participating. But we have Massachusetts, Boston Public Schools, Duval County in Florida, Hamilton County in Tennessee, Hawaii Department of Education, Quincy School District in Washington, Salem Kaiser in Oregon, in Indiana, School City of Hammond, United Charter School here in the state, our state, Wichita from Kansas, and I can't even pronounce this other one, from Minnesota. I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry, it starts with a Y, and it's crazy. I think it's Salanti. But what's really great about this grant is it allows us to look at artificial intelligence, to examine how we use it in the school district, how we can use it to problem solve a situation in a district to best support the needs of all of our learners. And we're looking at it through that lens of equity and also bias and access. And I'm so excited that Joe is here to do this with us, because it really is going to change what we do with our students and how we do it. So we're pretty excited about it.
Okay. Roll call.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
No.
Ms. Thomasina Bello?
No.
Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
And so now I'll turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Exceptional Learners.
Thank you, Madam President. The Exceptional Learner Division has items 13.1 and 13.2 on a consent agenda for the board's consideration.
Does anyone want to separate either of those? Okay. All right. So can I have a motion? And second. And discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Thomasina Bello? Yes. Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. DeRay?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
That concludes my items.
Ms. Boucher?
I would just like, when you guys come back from that conference, can we have a little briefing on it? Because I'm very interested, because when we were talking about literacy, you had talked about how AI is a thing now. So when we come back, if you can just give us like a synopsis. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And roll call.
Ms. Christine Bello?
Yes.
Ms. Thomasina Bello? Ms. Mackenzie Boucher?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli? Yes. Mr. DeRay? Mr. Howard? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
It will be.